Welcome to the Grandland Network. My name is Andy Greenwald. Exciting day here in our New York studio because I am joined by the star of what I believe to be the best show of summer 2015, the USA drama Mr. Robot, Rami Malek. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very happy to have you here. I'm excited. I'm very excited. We're going to talk about Mr. Robot. I appreciate that initially we were going to do this entire interview in character, which I think would have been good for like the people watching on YouTube, but I think the audio listeners would have been frustrated.
Right. They would have. Well, no, they would have got a lot of you and very little of me, which I think is probably a blessing in disguise.
Not necessarily. They get a lot of me on this show. I feel like we need more of you this time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like a lot of you too. I mean, I've been watching the show and the podcast, and it's really been great. You've been very smart, very intuitive in what you're talking about, and you seem to get our show sometimes better than I get the show. So
yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm worried about that. I want to make sure that you're up to speed, so we could talk about that as well.
That's great. Considering we've just completed the first season, it would be great to get me to where you're at right now. Yeah.
You're a couple episodes ahead. So we're recording this on a Wednesday. The show will air in its normal slot at 10 p.m. on USA, but we're going to put this up tomorrow so we can talk freely about the show through the 5th episode.
Gotcha. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so there will be no spoilers past that, of course, unless you feel like sharing them. But
right.
let's start where we need to start with Mr. Robot. Where did the show come from? When did the show come to you? Sam Esmail, the creator, got in touch with you at some point, your agents. Talk to me about how you became, when, give me the whole TikTok of what's happened for you.
This is good. So I was sent the script and it was entitled Mr. Robot, and I was like, we sure about this, gang? And I started flipping through it, and it opened up with that monologue that kind of, it detailed someone's view about society and how he's seeing it through his eyes and how he's being impacted, how the world's being impacted, and maybe there are some conspiracies at large, but through Elliot's vision, this is the world the way he sees it.
Right.
And I was really got immersed in that, was drawn to that. It was not only, it felt smart, but it felt poetic in a way, and it was really told through this guy's lens, and I felt like the audience was going to have a pretty specific involvement in where they would be throughout his journey.
Yeah, I mean, there are many things that are unique about Mr. Robot, but one of the most striking ones right from the beginning is that I don't know if I've ever seen a TV show that is completely told from the perspective of one character. Now, I hope that your agents, in handing you the script, said, oh, by the way, you're going to play that character. Right? You knew that going in, right? You weren't reading the script that's totally about one guy, and you thought maybe you were going to be like, busker number 2 on the subway.
No, I definitely, yeah, they let me know.
That's
exactly.
Nice of them. Okay,
yeah,
good.
It was very sweet of them. So they're good to me in that sense.
So here's the thing, though. So you read the script, and I imagine you were struck, even just off the page, that this was something unique. This is not like other TV scripts maybe that you've been getting or that you've seen. But something that's written in a certain way is one thing. Actually being able to make it happen, to bring it to life, is a whole other story. So after reading it and saying you liked it, did you sit with Sam? Did he have to sell you on his vision for it? What was the next step?
He did. Look, I mean, this was an audition process as well. It's not
right. It wasn't they were waiting on the Rami brand.
Yes. They're like, who is this?
Right.
They were excited about me coming in. I was excited to see them, and I talked to Sam about it a little bit here and there, but for the most part, our first few meetings were really to see if we would get along.
Right.
And if I could perform Elliot the way he imagined it, which is, as you can see, a very specific vision. He has a very specific vision on all accounts.
That's what's so striking about the show. Okay, so tell me, you went into an audition.
So, yeah, I went into an audition, and I could see him smiling, so I was like, either this guy's a pretty jovial guy,
or he's watching a Funny or Die video on his phone.
Right, which you never know, because I'm concentrating on reading with the casting director, and out of the corner of my eye, I can feel that I was emitting something that he was responding to.
There's some vibes, but
some good vibes. Yeah,
What choices did you make though for that audition? Because you had no direction, you had just your own intuition and the script.
I remember him telling me, I did the Ron's coffee shop scene from the pilot. And I remember him saying, I came in, and the first thing I said to him, I was like, man, you're, what did I say to him? I said, your script breeds this anxiety. It breeds anxiety. Yeah. And he started laughing. He's like, it does, doesn't it? And then we sat down and I read the Ron's coffee scene, and I remember him saying, I was smiling through it, and he hadn't thought of that, but I think for him he saw, and this is this is a big stretch here, but a little bit of Taxi, Travis Bickle in there, like in these circumstances, and yet he's finding a way to not enjoy it, but he's finding, a freedom in it in a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the most interesting things about the show is the way that Elliot sees himself as this tiny cog in this crushing machine, but yet through his hacking ability can make himself big and powerful. And the first time we see him is him using that power. It's sort of it's a very surprising way to introduce the character, considering the way we learn about about him next.
Right. And I was just cognizant of not making him, this incredibly debilitating nerves, where it's like, oh, I cannot watch that guy over the course of a season.
Yeah, you have to spend time with him.
Yeah. So I just tried to find a way where he doesn't acknowledge certain things about him that the world may be able to see, but are not as difficult to deal with from an outside perspective.
Well, you bring this very unique stillness to the part. I mean, Elliot is incredibly charismatic, even though he doesn't want anyone to see him. I mean, it's a kind of a contradiction, but that seems like something that is a constant in the work that I've seen you in. You are very, like, I remember you, and we talked about this right before we started recording, when I listed your credits, at least the ones that I was familiar with. Right. I remember you very well from The Master, because you didn't have 100 lines in that movie, but you were very present when you were there. And you were a true believer in that movie as well. Yeah.
The editor will remember me more from The Master.
Right. That's always the thing with it. Right.
It's Paul. Paul had a very long film on his hands, and it was a pretty juicy role, and
and some of the juice got poured out.
The juice got poured out, but I still have them in my memory bank.
That's right. So. And the editor probably has them as hard drives.
It's great. Yeah, I've learned to get over things like that. I love Mr. Robot because I am not getting cut out of things. I mean,
you are not. There's a lot of you.
There's a lot of Elliot. There's a lot of Rami in there. But I don't know. I try on camera, for some reason, I'm drawn to do the work so that I can be still, and when it requires my eyes to move in a certain way, or when I when things do get a little bit more elevated, I think it has more of an impact sometimes.
Yes, so that's right. Yeah, if you start at 10, there's nowhere to go.
Exactly.
But you still have to be confident enough to be quiet, which I think is a trick in almost any. It's a trick in social circumstances, and it's a trick certainly I would imagine when acting too.
It is. I mean, I think we're drawn to the people who are filled with immense amount of knowledge, and yet they only speak when they feel it's an opportune time to do so.
There's an amazing moment in the episode that's airing tonight, so people will have seen it, but when Elliot is attempting to break in to Steel Mountain, and he's dealing with the first level of security, a guy that he destroys psychologically, and he's waiting for instructions from Mr. Robot and from the gang in the van.
Yeah.
But it's also totally plausible that Elliot is just standing there and looking off to the side, and there's so much power and tension in that silence. It's almost unbearable. I mean, you mentioned the anxiety that Sam puts in the script, but it's right there in the performance as well. It's excruciating.
It's excruciating. And, there's the flip side of it is when you're on set and someone's waiting for the voiceover, they can't hear it, but I can hear it.
Yeah.
So for them to have to wait and pause, it creates a tension in them that they can, allow to come out in their side of the work. But
that's right.
Yeah. It's it's pretty unique to be the camera's rolling on two people and they're staring at each other and someone's waiting for the other person to talk.
There's a lot of power in that.
There is a lot of power in that.
And it's destabilizing, but it could be kind of exciting, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so you auditioned, you clearly aced it.
I don't know if I aced it.
It
took a few times.
Okay.
It did take a few times, but I, like you said, I looked at the script and I went back to my agent and I go, this is great. Is this what's going to make it to the screen?
Right, exactly. Because you would imagine not. I mean, was it already set up at USA? Are we that far in the process? Or was it?
Yeah, I think it was at USA at that point. And I went to my agent and I said, take this to everyone at the agency and see what exactly is going to happen with it, because people can tell me left and right what this is going to be. And he did, and he came back and said, listen, USA is doing something different over there right now, and they've had a lot of success with their shows. Their shows have worked for quite a long period.
The Blue Skies programming was a really great thing. It worked, and the shows are very popular and good. But this is not like those shows.
This is not like those shows. So I had to say to myself, is this going to be made in the way that I would hope that it will be? And to their credit, they've not, I wouldn't say they give Sam carte blanche, but they respect his vision. They do think he's a brilliant collaborator, as I do, and I try not to use that word often, but the man is quite intelligent and creative, and the combination of that makes for something special. And I think USA saw that they had something in him and wanted to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, because, and this is something that my friend Chris Ryan said on the Hollywood Perspectives podcast this week, and we've been talking about the show a lot. That scene you mentioned, the Ron's coffee shop scene, could have been the template for a very different kind of show. And in fact, I would still watch that show, to be honest, but I thought in the first few minutes that's where we were headed, where it had a skewed perspective, but it was still a procedural in the sense that that Elliot would be busting someone every week using his hacking superpowers. Like that was who he was. And it's introduced, I think in one of the early monologues, he's like, well, this is what I do during the day, but this is who I am at night. And you're like, oh, okay, this is a show. There's a show here. That's not the show we got. And that was exhilarating because it was very surprising. And it was, and there was never any indication that it was going to be the other. There was going to be the more traditional.
Yeah, I never read it that way. Even when I got it and they told me what was going to happen with the show, I never thought for a second it was going to be that type of show. But it easily could have been Elliot bringing someone to Ron's coffee shop every week.
Sitting him down.
Sitting them down.
At a certain point, the barista's like, oh, God.
Right, here he goes again.
He's destroying another life over a Frappuccino.
That could be quite comical.
So I would watch it.
There's an SNL skit there, right?
I think eventually, you're on your way.
Or there's another show that people are like, yeah, this is great, but it should have been.
No, but that's the thing. I feel like, and again, I mean this with no disrespect, but it was something we would often say in talking about TV, like, oh, well, that's the USA version of the show.
Right.
Which is no disrespect because, like Suits and Burn Notice, like those are popular, good shows that people love, but they are more formulaic in the sense that it's case of the week a lot often, and it's smilier, more smiles.
It is. Well, I think even at USA, they're taking Mr. Robot and showing them, showing filmmakers and auteurs like as a template. This is what we're trying to do now. Yeah,
well, that would be the best thing to do.
Yeah.
So speaking of filmmakers and auteurs, you finally. You sit down with Sam.
Okay, back to this.
Sam has made the meat of it. Sam has made one indie film, right, prior to this, a film called Comet, which I've not seen, but I would like to now very much.
Don't see it.
Don't see it.
No, I'm just kidding. It's really cool.
How did he communicate his vision to you once you were on board, but before you had actually started filming? How did he describe it and what it was going to be?
He just described to me the way he likes to work, and that he was, attempting to make something that was different, and that it was going to be unflinching, it was going to be uncompromising, and he just didn't want it to be a slick show. He didn't want any of us as actors to fall into these I think common characters that you see on TV. He just wanted everything to be unique, the look of it to be very unique. He wanted, he's going to set up shots in a way that would not only would be purposeful and artistic, but would also maybe convey some underlying message that you wouldn't normally get from a television show. And when he talks to you like that, it's like, okay, I'm on board.
Yeah, but what's amazing to me is that that's hard enough, communicating a vision, even having the vision, but then getting it done within the framework of, week-to-week television, that's a whole other thing. When you actually got on set for the pilot, and you were in New York for it,
yes,
what was the process like? What was filming it like? What was it like becoming Elliot in front of the cameras for the first time? zipping up the hoodie, so to speak.
I mean, it's. I get chills thinking about it because one, it was very cold, but two,
Yeah.
it was exhilarating. I
Yeah.
mean, here we are just setting up shop, in Chinatown where Elliot's apartment is, and the camera is it's pushing and pulling with me, to use cinematic terms, throughout the city, and I have my hood on, sometimes my hood off, but most of the time, it was right there in my face with the voiceover going on in my mind and in my ear, and
Voiceover that you had already recorded or that had yet to record?
we had yet to record it, but I'd memorized. I'd done a lot of work to prepare, so I knew it, pretty much backwards and forwards. But I also, I get it in my ear when I need to get it in my ear.
Understood.
But you could tell that the look of it was different. We had an incredible DP on the show. His name was Tim Ives. Is Tim Ives. He's
changed it since.
He's changed it since he does House of Cards. He's done Girls, and he, between him and Sam having countless meetings, and Nils Ardenoplev, who directed The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original one.
Yes, and he directed the pilot.
They had a very, austere, I think I've heard you use the term Nordic. Chilly feel to it. Definitely not blue skies.
Yeah, very gray.
Yeah, very gray. Sam likes to use a lot of headroom in his shots. He likes off-kilter shots, and I think that's emblematic of the world Elliot's living in.
Yeah.
I loved it. In the script it said Elliot tries to avoid touch in the street. So having this hulking backpack and trying to navigate the streets of New York without touching people can be quite difficult, and to do it requires an element of grace, which I was able to discover. And here's this socially anxious nutbag that it can be, a bit of a dancer on the streets of New York.
Yeah.
So there was something I identified in that.
Well, he makes sense in the streets of New York in an odd way. There's there's a solitude you can find in crowds, and I think the shots often suggest that. I think the way you move through them in your performance suggests that as well. I think he would in many ways be a lot more uncomfortable and lonely if you dropped him in the middle of a field in Montana.
Right.
Although I would like to see that episode too.
Yeah.
But there's something about the solitude in New York that is really.
You've asked where season 2 is going.
There it is.
Yeah, it's a field in Nebraska, but
I got it out of you. Man.
Yeah.
You were not hard to break.
No, pretty simple. The other thing I asked for, which I got, was I wanted my clothing, everything, to feel like it was a bit of a urban combat uniform, but something that if I had put my head down and there was anybody looking from above on a drone or a helicopter, not that would happen, but it could happen.
Could happen.
That I would just blend right into the concrete. And so he came up with this idea that he's not going to change his clothes very often.
Yeah.
So you see me in this black hoodie, and everything can, if you're not paying close enough attention, the man can dissolve into his surroundings.
Although he's not changing his clothes very often, and often has the morphine sweats, so you might smell him coming.
You could smell him coming.
But we're not there with our TV technology yet.
No.
So that's probably a good thing.
I'll try to implement that.
To have people recoil everywhere he goes.
I'll be that actor who stops wearing deodorant halfway through his season. Yeah.
You go super method.
Oh, yeah.
What sort of notes did you find yourself getting from Sam in the midst of the season? Like, were you in sync pretty much right away because you got the character, or did he have to say things like, modulate it this way, turn it this way, we're not there yet, you aren't that person?
You're right on.
Right.
Yeah. There were moments. There's a Michael Hansen scene at the end where I come off pretty confident. And when I take the dog from him, and
early on, yes.
Even early on, he's like, he told me after we shot the pilot, you really have to be careful about how much confidence you exude as this guy. You know, he's not Jack Bauer. No. Even in Steel Mountain, when we shot that the other day, he's like, you can't be running through this place, with your superhero voice on and all that. What's great about that scene in last night's episode is, especially in the executive lunchroom, where you're surrounded by people who, whether they belong there or not, act like it. But in the hoodie and the way you sat, the way the camera got your size,
absolutely made clear that you do not belong there.
Yeah. Well, I remember slumping in the in the chair while we were just waiting for lighting, and I was not feeling good that week.
Due to morphine withdrawal?
Due to morphine withdrawal.
You're super method.
I'm super method. All that morphine I do is real.
I respect that, and you still know your lines.
And I still know my line. It helps me learn my lines.
Does it really? Remember that, kids. This podcast is educational.
Yes, it is. You ever thought morphine just numbed you?
No.
So I remember slumping in the chair as I am now and saying, "Oh, this feels right. Like, look, I can do this in this. I can actually get away with slumping in this chair."
Yeah.
I mean, there would be a limit to how much I can do it, but then I just sat there for the rest of the scene and I tried out a take like that. And I remember Sam walking by and goes, "Are you going to sit like that?" And I go, "I think I am." And he goes, "Good."
There you go.
So there's a lot of moments like that where we're on the same page. I remember in episode 4, I came up to him and I said, I think today I'm going to yell at the men in black instead of just walking.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I was just going to tell you to do that." And that's not BS. He actually, he won't say that. Or there's a lot of times when he's like, "Please don't do that. Don't do that again."
Yeah.
"You're not going to do that again, are you? Why did you do that?"
Like the time you put in jazz hands or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, what did I? There was a moment on the porch, on the stoop of my apartment with, it was Angela, who was played by Portia Doubleday, where we were going to watch Back to the Future, and Shayla's upstairs. And that turns out poorly, but for a second I was like, yeah, this is a really enjoyable moment.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll smile, or maybe even more than a smile. Maybe I'll really enjoy this for a second.
That would be the moment.
That would be the moment, but he had to rein that in a little bit. Even then, he reined it in. That's how specific he is.
We should probably address that. I was going to bring it up that Elliot, despite we've been describing him accurately, he's antisocial. He's certainly not a smiler. He slumps. He's in military garb. He's at war with society. Kind of a ladies' man.
Right.
Pretty right off the bat. He does seem irresistible to a surprising number of women.
He is. I think there's something about him, his elusiveness, that people are drawn to. He does come to the aid of Angela when she needs help, to the the damsel in distress.
He does send Shayla's boyfriend / dealer / pimp to prison.
Right. Although that man would have never existed in her life had it not been for Elliot's need of Suboxone to curb morphine.
And judging by last night, it does come back around a little bit. That's not so easily put away.
No, it's not.
But he does.
But who would? I mean, everyone knew that was coming, right?
No, I figured it was done. I figured it was happy ending. Blue skies.
Right. Right. That's the thing about Sam. Everything will intersect at some point. I can tell you that. That's what's good. The mind, his mind works in a way where nothing is done without reason. Everything's appropriate.
Well, let's talk about this. So, I've mentioned this on the HP pod a couple times, but in the interviews that I've read with Sam about it, he talks about how Mr. Robot was initially a film script, switched it to TV, and then was like, yeah, I'm sticking with my plot, which I thought was so ballsy and great because generally, the vagaries and the randomness and the accidents of just TV production means you kind of can't stay focused on something. You have to, juggle day by day.
Right.
But he has his story and he's sticking to it. How much of that is true? How much of what you know of what you've done in the first season is completely the vision that he had for the movie versus things that have morphed due to facts on the ground?
Things have morphed, be them slightly, but it's only because of his vision has been altered, and it's not from some outside altercation or anything.
It's from morphine
like
addiction?
That. It's from morphine. No, I mean, from morphine addiction. It's because he sees things going in a different direction as we progress as a cast and crew, and his vision changes based on things he sees. But it's not because of any outside impetus, it's because he's but it hasn't changed that much, to be quite honest.
Right.
And I've heard you say what was it you said in your text message? It was either.
Oh yeah, I think either. So we'll beep this, but either USA gives 0 notes or Sam gives 0 fucks. Yeah. And I assume the truth is somewhere between those two, but
I won't argue with that. But I will say, to USA's credit, they have allowed him the freedom to pursue his vision and backed him up on everything. They've really just laid down I guess a groundwork for him just to do what he wants. They trust him. They think he's a visionary. I mean, they've struck a deal with him to do more. So,
oh, good. And the show was renewed for a second season before the first one premiered.
Right off the bat.
So they clearly know something's up.
They know something's up, and they're invested. And we hear that a lot. So going day to day, depending on ratings and whatnot, we know, he has the capital, I think, to keep doing what he wants to do.
That's so valuable, and I feel like that's something that's often left out of day-to-day discussions about TV, which is ratings do matter, but really what matters most is buying in and confidence,
Right.
And you guys are in the best possible situation because it seems like it, because of the confidence the network is showing in you, because of the quality of the work, and because of the fact that they want to be doing something different and they want to use Mr. Robot as a calling card for the future, you guys are protected from a lot of that day-to-day, whether it's note giving or ratings parsing or whatever. You're making more.
It is,
and you can do your job.
Yeah. It doesn't keep us from asking questions.
Of course not. You guys are still professionals in the business, but
I think they were saying to a broad audience, we're invested. You can be too. This is not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah, because audiences are skittish now.
They are. Yeah, they are, and I would be too. Yeah.
I want to ask you about working.
Ask away. I know you have so many questions.
I have so many questions.
So keep going. Let's fire them off, and I'll give one-word answers.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I want more than one word for this one, but then we'll do a lightning round at the end.
Okay.
I want to ask about working with Christian Slater, and specifically about his character. I know you will not tell me, and I do not want you to tell me whether Mr. Robot is real or not, because really, what is real?
I was going to say, what can you from Elliot's vantage point, what is real?
Right. I mean, that is one of the most amazing things about the show immediately, is that it's not just, we're not just hanging out with him. We're not on his shoulder. We are in his head. So other people say Evil Corp, even though I imagine that's not actually the name of the company.
No, it's not.
It's all filtered through his experience. So, right. So real doesn't really matter. That said, what do you know about that relationship that we don't, if anything, that helps you play those scenes? Or does he keep you in the dark as well? When I say he, Sam, versus this, and I mean the scenes with you and Christian.
Right. There, it's as real as it can get with him. So that's how I play everything. My world, Elliot's world, it's as vibrant and visceral as you can get.
Yes, it is.
So I think it's good that he has you questioning if the Men in Black exist, if Darlene exists, if Christian's character, Mr. Robot, exists, if E-Corp exists. I mean, that's one place you don't get to be as an audience member these days. In the head of someone who, where a world plausibly doesn't even exist before your very eyes.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, it'd be difficult to think that Sam created a world that isn't real.
That would be
a major blow, or it could be the coolest thing that has happened in TV in a long time.
But that's where we are with it. I think that's why people are responding to the show because it's really well made, it's exciting, it's fun, the performances are great. But I do think there's also an element of this could go in either direction.
Yeah.
Like this could just keep running and soaring, or the coyote could look down and oh my God, and it's going to be a spectacular flame out.
Right.
I'm not rooting for that.
And if it does flame out, which it won't, it would be spectacular.
It would be spectacular, right? But like we have these scenes where for an entire episode, I can't look at anything else. The fact that no one but Elliot is making eye contact with Mr. Robot. No one but Elliot is responding to his voice. And then last night's episode, Mr. Robot and Darlene get in a huge screaming fight.
Right.
So is she fake? Or is everyone fake, or am I going crazy? And just listen to me. Sam won. He won.
Well, I think it's so brilliant because he's got everybody guessing, and then I was like, oh, wait for episode 5, and then and I'm like, oh, it took me that long to figure,
Yeah. So he's keeping you in the dark too, as much as he needs to be.
Keeping me in the dark in a certain way. I think I know things for the most part, and then sometimes he placates me and just nods and says, yeah, you got it. And then obviously I don't. And I wanted to know everything at first, but there's something kind of, there's something really special about being in the dark and discovering things as Elliot does.
Yeah.
And coming up and see, even in the table reads sometimes when we were going through, we'd just be astonished at the craft this guy comes
where
up
it was
with.
going next.
Yeah. But yeah, it was great. I keep thinking about everybody writing about the show and what their thoughts on Mr. Robot are and his existence, and then getting to episode 5 when he talks to a number of different people and
he seems to be there.
Yeah, he seems to be there.
Although when you stare long enough, which is, again, this is what we're doing. I have to watch a lot of TV, and I try to pay attention and take notes and write about it, but I'm not staring the way I am at Mr. Robot, because the scene when Christian is in the van with the other 2 guys, and I'm staring, I'm like, could he be removed from the scene and they would still be acting the same way? I mean, I'm looking at it in that way.
Yeah, that's very smart.
It gets in your head.
That's smart. You'd have demands rewatching, I guess.
Yeah,
a lot of pausing.
A lot of pausing, a lot of head scratching.
Yeah. Maybe Elliot's not the one that's real.
Well, then that's what last week suggested.
Yeah.
Because you had the sequence that was either a dream sequence or a detoxing sequence, or some combination of both or neither. And there's the moment where someone's like, you haven't, in the dream, right? Where she's like, you're not real.
You're not real. Yeah.
It's trippy.
It is trippy and ballsy.
Ballsy.
I was like,
TV.
I looked at him. He goes, I remember him saying, man, we just got to get him past episode 4.
The audience, you mean?
Yeah. He's like, people can look at episode 4 and they'll be like, what is this guy doing?
So the fish is talking now. Like
right.
That's the fish. The talking fish is like, that's the layer. If you can push through that layer,
right,
you're all the way in.
Yeah. And she eats the fish. It's like, what?
She ate the fish. Yeah.
She ate the fish. That's the same fish.
I forgot.
Right after in the.
It just wasn't talking as much in the
restaurant.
rich voice of Keith David, but
no.
But again, the All Safe restaurant. Like these are the thing that I love about it. Is it's a little bit whimsical. I mean, it's fun. There's a sense of play, even though the characters are very serious and in very dark circumstances. That's a hard thing to do, have an aesthetic vision and a tone through a week-to-week television show, because so many moving parts, often many directors cycling in and out, different people in the room writing things. Obviously, the very best TV shows of the last few years have a very strong voice at the top. But even so, getting that right so early is remarkable. Now I'm just praising you. That's not even a
No,
question.
it's not me. You're praising him.
Let's talk more about you.
Yeah. Praising him is great, because I wouldn't, I don't think my performance, which I feel is coming off strong, it would not be as, it would not be, it really feels connected because of having him there all the time, because I know his vision. I have him to help me, delineate exactly where Elliot is in this moment when I can question it, because he's a guy who you can throw across the map and stick in a number of places and you can get lost. And Sam is there to really, pull everything. He just works so hard on getting everything on the same page. So whether it's our crew and lighting things in a certain way, he just has a vision and he sees it all happening ahead of schedule in his brain.
That's good.
It all comes to fruition a little bit quicker for him.
Ahead of schedule are magic words in TV. You don't hear those very often.
No, I mean, he comes in, he talks to directors, he has meetings. We're using multiple directors doing multiple episodes.
Jim McKay, who's a great director, did last night's episode.
Yeah.
It was so striking with the mirrored shots and the...
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I remember shooting it. The mirrored shots were great.
Yeah, you were there, so you know.
I was there. I spent quite a bit of time there.
You're real, I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who may or may not be real, it's been great to watch Christian's performance in the show, because obviously he's had a very long career. Been a big fan of him for a long time, and the last few years, he was great in Archer. I really like the show he had on ABC, Mind Games, but it seems like people have had a hard time putting him in the right role.
Right.
And he seems like he's having a blast. I mean, I don't know. He's an actor, so maybe he's not, but he seems like he's having a lot of fun in this part.
I think he's having one of the best times of his life in the past 20 years. It feels like.
That's great.
He's ecstatic. He comes to work. He's incredibly prepared, but at the same time, he comes to enjoy his time there.
Yeah.
And so he's ready to work, but he also wants wants to have fun, and I think he's at a place in his career where, you know, he's had a lot of success, and sometimes that, you know, there's you know, hasn't maybe had that same success, and here it is happening, you know, in a very special way, and it speaks to someone who's gone through it, and this is not an easy thing to get through, and especially, you know, being as incredibly huge as he was, you know, younger, and I can see that on a daily basis why he's iconic, and I think that's definitely present in his role as Mr. Robot. I love coming to work with him. I've learned a lot from him, you know, in his work ethic, and just who he is as a man, and he's really patient. He's very smart, and I think he's found like a real ease in his skin, and it shows.
Yeah, it definitely shows.
It shows, and it's a great role, and he understands a great role. You know, when we got the pickup right away, he goes, "Rami, this does not happen."
Yeah. He knows. He knows. There.
We were on the, you know, front page of the New York Times arts section. He's like, "This does not happen." You know,
that's good to have someone like that to put in perspective.
It really is. It's special. I really am. I could not have got stuck with a better guy to play that role as an actor and just as a guy.
You filmed the show all in New York, right? And one of the things I was most struck by the pilot was the vision of New York is so specific. More and more shows are filming here, both for creative reasons and for a while for tax reasons, and we often see the same city. And to see the city in all senses through someone else's eyes was really striking. Not just the way that the pilot and through Elliot's perspective, Midtown, you know, kind of looks like a prison colony. But that first scene that you shared, I'm not sure if you filmed it in order at all, but the scene with Christian on the Ferris wheel.
That was day one.
That was day one.
I
mean, it pops off the screen in a way. Are you an LA guy? Do you live in LA normally?
I grew up in LA. Now I'm back and forth here.
What was it like filming a show on the streets and on the Ferris wheels and being a part of the city with this show that is very much about chaos and society?
It's great. I never enjoy. I mean, work on stage, you have to do it, but to be on location at, you know, on the Wonder Wheel in Coney Island. With Christian on day one. Right. And setting up camera shots that are off kilter, having one of the Wonder Wheel carts coming in and out of the frame right behind you, keeping you on edge. It's day one, we're shooting. It's like, this is cool. This is special. And you definitely got that feeling. And Sam was very adamant about us shooting in New York and shooting a lot of New York.
Yeah.
And in a way that it reflected Elliot as a cog in society, you know, part of this massive wheel. So what better way to start than on a Ferris wheel in Coney Island?
What was it like for you to be filming though before did you just wrap? Is the season wrapped?
We just finished, yeah.
So you were filming the very end right when the show premiered.
Correct. Well, we were, I think we were on 7 or 8, something like that.
So I know from living here that, you know, anytime a show is filming, they put up those signs and they move the cars and it says production name. And, you know, sometimes you'll be like, oh, Good Wife's back or whatever.
Right.
But for a while, it must have said Mr. Robot around town and you were on the streets. What was the interaction of the cast with the city? Because I know people must have come up to you and been like, what are you doing? Like,
oh, yeah.
How did you describe it when you're like, what are you doing? And you're sitting there twitching, wearing a hoodie in the middle of Chinatown.
I say we're doing a show that stars Christian Slater.
Okay. And then you walk away.
And then I walk away. Okay. People ask me, because I'm in the black hoodie and people they may have seen it or not, but I might as well just look like a PA to anybody else and just be like, just steer clear of 45th, you know.
That's a good attitude.
Yeah. People get, you know, it's their city. There are tons of productions, and it's like, get off of my block, for God's sake. People will just walk right through, you know, and interrupt takes, and they're like, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm going home. I have to feed my kid.
But I'm going to grab some Apple Jacks from craft services on the way because I deserve it.
Yeah. Take the Apple Jacks.
You know what? Take them.
But now I'm getting a lot of love out there.
This is the other thing to talk about, which is I missed the premiere. I didn't watch it the week it premiered, but I can't remember getting such an enormous wave of people coming at me being like, have you seen this yet? You have to see it. You have to see it. When are you going to write about it? When are you going to talk about it? The enthusiasm is real, and you must be getting it as well.
I am. I mean, the amount of calls and emails and what you guys are writing, I feel I'm humbled and blessed. I've never, even from my mother doesn't say such kind things about
me.
No, that's not true. But
Your mother has to like everything you do.
She does. She likes this. She doesn't understand all of it, but
that's okay.
It's pretty heady stuff sometimes.
I don't understand all of it.
You don't?
No, definitely not.
Christian's even saying, he's like, I really can't get up and go get popcorn during this thing.
No, but this is the thing I was saying on the show this week. This is one of the best things about it, is it doesn't matter. Like, I can lose the thread of the plot. That balloon can fly away, but I'm like, your performance is riveting and grounding. I'm care already about Shayla, about Darlene. I like these people.
Yeah.
We're hanging out with them. Okay, so they're getting in a limousine with Chinese hackers wearing masks. Okay. I bought a ticket. I'm going on this ride, so that's fine.
Oh, yeah. This can go anywhere. You're invested.
This could go anywhere.
It's not about that, I guess, is what you're saying.
It doesn't. I think the best things can be both. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you're enjoying the ride, it doesn't really matter what the destination is. The only time people start talking about, well, where's all this going, is when they're looking at their watch or going to get popcorn.
Right.
It's funny Christian said that, since he spends most of the show eating popcorn.
Right.
So why does he need more?
I don't know. I think he's developed an affinity for it.
Right.
He's like, I do remember popcorn, and I like it.
I love it.
To that, speaking to that, Sam, when we started working, I said, how many seasons are we going to do this for?
Yeah,
and
I got places to be.
Yeah, I got places to be. I wanted to know. I'm like, a little film career going on here.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy.
I'm a busy guy.
I looked at your IMDb page. There's stuff.
There's stuff. It's ramping up. So I asked him, I'm like, do you have a vision for this? And I think that's been coming out in the media lately. And to that point, he does. And a very clear one at that. I think USA signed on hearing the beginning to the end.
Yes.
So it's not one of those shows that is just, okay, let's brainstorm what's going to happen this week.
So basically, one of the things that people are worried about always with shows that are this engrossing and complicated immediately is people point to Lost, which I loved, but it's very well publicized that there was a point when they had to keep extending the mystery because the network wanted more.
Right.
And they weren't allowed to end it, so they never knew where they were in terms of their timing. This sounds like this is not the case. He knows the ending generally, and the network's on board for the story, however long it takes.
Yeah.
Or however short it takes, right?
Or however short it takes. He's just a guy who won't compromise his art form.
Clearly.
Yeah. So he's not going to stretch this out for a dollar figure or anything. When he's done because he wants to make the best thing he can possibly make. The guy eats, sleeps, and breathes this show.
Yeah.
And his influence on it it's very tangible.
So is there a number that he's used for you publicly?
I think he said 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's told me that privately. I think that's public knowledge as well. And he, at some point, he can describe to you what happens in the following seasons already. So
He probably wouldn't.
He wouldn't. No. Maybe to you. He likes it. I told you. He goes, "Oh, you're going on the show? I like the show." Tell him I said hello.
That's nice.
Yeah.
We I hope we can talk to him at some point.
You'll get him. I'll force him this way.
I like him being the mysterious Elliot figure that won't talk, though. I think that's a good look for him.
He is. He's got a little bit of Elliot in him. If I'm ever at a loss, I'm like, what would you do?
Seriously?
Sam? Yeah. What am I supposed to do here, Sam?
So what about for you? How easy has it been? You rapped. Have you shed Elliot, or do you find him coming out? Because when you walked in here and you did a Heisman to get away from a handshake, I was like, this is real.
Yeah.
This is a real thing.
I was saying to myself, how awkward can I make our encounter?
You did a good job.
Yeah. I should do. Well, I was at dinner the other day. We were having Italian with my brother and my friend Nick, and some guys came up to us, and they enjoyed the show, but
They're pushing a little bit?
They were pushing a little bit, and my brother's like, dude, you could just do Elliot on them and no one would think twice, right? Just cower in not being able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And they will walk away and be like, oh, man, that's it. That's all you really have to do.
He's not acting.
He's not acting. What if I was putting this on? I was like, oh, man, I really did a good job.
I really did a good job pretending to be a normal
extrovert.
person.
Yeah.
And you went back to your room in Chinatown and wept.
Yeah, and wept.
That's my goal for all my guests, to be honest. Once they leave here, is just to
go cry,
leave them crying.
Yeah,
but
it hasn't been hard to shed. I mean, look, every night after working, we worked some very long hours on this show, and it was because we were trying to do the most we could with the time period we had to shoot. And so I would get home and was constantly trying to work on the lines for the next day and the emotional quality for the next day. And so I was invested.
Yeah.
So to get away from him sometimes, I would wash it off in between takes and enjoy the company I had, joking around with Sam, joking around with Chad Hamilton, our executive producer from Anonymous Content, who's also had an incredibly strong influence on the show.
Yeah.
I gotta say, those guys, between True Detective and this.
Yeah, they haven't done much TV. We know them from like Eternal Sunshine and, you know, and longer career in films, obviously.
Right.
But
that's a really special place to be involved with.
Yeah.
Those guys are great. Steve Golan is a really special man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm surrounded by all these really smart, capable people who want the best for this show. It's really an unprecedented place to be.
You seem happy.
I'm thrilled, man. I don't even like doing this stuff, and I'm like, hey, is this gonna go for an hour longer? Because I'll hang out.
I appreciate that. I won't keep you that much longer.
No.
Just give me.
What else? Ask more. I know you have so many more questions.
Well, I got two more questions.
Okay.
What can you or what do you want to tell us about the second half of the season? Obviously without spoilers, but what you're in vague terms, something you might be enthusiastic, excited about, something to look for.
What am I?
I know it's hard for you to. I know often after you've filmed something, like you haven't seen the concrete episodes, they blur. But
I'll tell you this. I don't know if everyone will speak to this, but I'll say I think our strongest episodes lie ahead of us.
Nice. That's good to know. Is there a relationship on the show that you are particularly excited about as it plays out? Whether it's Elliot
good.
Shayla, Elliot Mr. Robot, Angela, her dad's. That's a hot new relationship. We just learned about
and
that.
Her father.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
I don't know. How about Flashback Elliot and Flashback Mom? I mean, there are a lot of little pairings here.
There are so many. I do have to say, Portia's work as Angela is really great to watch, and seeing what I worried in not knowing Sam's vision at the very beginning. I worried that she was going to be this vanilla character.
Yeah, but then she's popping mollies in episode 4.
Now she's popping mollies. I sometimes go up to Sam. I'm like, is she going to be the Elliot of next season? Like she has.
Oh yeah.
There seems like there's an investment in that character.
She went rogue
for a great little storyline in the future, and her character does really evolve as the season progresses. As all of the strong female roles, you'll learn a lot about Shayla and Darlene and. Who else? I love the relationship between Gideon and myself.
Yeah, that was an interesting one too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little interesting layers. Like what I like about it is that none of the pairings are predictable. You don't even the Angela Elliot relationship. You think it's being telegraphed as one thing, and it quickly becomes something else. Right. Which I think is very appreciated because we watch, not just me, a lot of people watch a lot of TV. And the first time you see them, I'm like, okay, he's this way, she's the cheerleader. It's the Taylor Swift song, basically. Yeah, it is. It's unpredictable. Even from my end, I'm like, oh, that relationship will, come under some duress, and I didn't expect that to happen. Or this one will actually thrive. Yeah. Didn't expect that one to happen. So those things make just for a more complicated, interesting story that it's gripping. The show's gripping. I get excited for Wednesday nights, but I don't like watching commercials, so I have to wait. Yeah, but this is a very Elliot thing for you to say because we need the commercials, right? For you to exist. For me to exist. But you want to F society a little bit and not watch them. It's true. Well, as they asked me, I was like, "Do you have any? Would you be interested in ringing the bell at the stock market?" And I said, "I don't. I think that goes against everything the show is saying." And then on the other end of it, I was like, "Absolutely, I would." It's perfect. It's perfect. What else? I mean, what would make Mr. Robot happier than the thought of Elliot standing up on a platform being cheered by his enemies, basically. By his enemies.
brilliant.
It's working on a lot of levels.
It is. So many levels that I think in the future when people act... When and if I do think this will become a cult classic, aside from the impact it's already having.
But here's the best thing. It would be a cult classic if it was failing and it was canceled.
Right.
Now it could just be a classic.
It's a classic.
I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but maybe it will be. Right?
Hey, I'm with you. I'm not going to, it is what it is. It's a very, very special, dynamic show, unlike anything on television, as you've stated.
This is also really fun to talk to you about because it's almost like I keep forgetting that you're the star of the show because we're both fans of it. You like this show. There are plenty of actors on good shows who probably don't even like their own shows.
It's true. I mean, I'm getting these scripts sent now thanks to this work on Mr. Robot. I get the incoming call, the scripts here. We'd love for you to do. It's crazy. And I'm like, but I have Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
But I'm Elliot, and I enjoy it. Of course, I'm going to go do something else. But it's pretty a special gift as an actor to feel fulfilled by playing one role.
Especially if you know you're locked into it for a couple of years. I mean, that can offer. I often talk to people, and that can offer. It's the eternal choice, right? It offers financial security and stability in your life in a way that it must be nice because an actor's career is generally not stable. But at the same time, the point of an actor's career is creativity and following your muse and having many opportunities.
Right.
And so if the one you're locked into doesn't offer that, well,
that's when you get to, that's why you vet everything so hardcore before you get involved.
Right. But even so,
you still never know the outcome. You're right.
You never know. Let's finish up just by saying, so let's talk timeline and where you are. So you're done with this for now. The first season's wrapped.
Yes.
Let's have some Rami time.
Oh, okay.
How do you plan to spend these next few months, and when do you have to report back to work?
I don't know. We don't have a hard date set for when I return, but Rami time. I would have loved to
That's the new name of this podcast.
Yeah,
by the way.
Rami time. Conversations with Mr. Malek.
So sounds good. Yeah.
Let me think. I wanted to take a little vacation, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Sorry.
And I think I will be remiss by not doing that a little bit later. What's going on? Things are happening. The people who have watched this pilot they've called my agents. They're really thrilled, and things are going great in that respect. From
good.
Film, I was just meeting with David Michaud, who did Animal Kingdom and is doing some great films, and he's working with Brad Pitt's company Plan B, and they were all thrilled. They loved Mr. Robot. I'm like, you guys are watching this? Terrific.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So, I've had a lot of love from the film community call.
But I feel like that must be so great because we alluded to that in the beginning. Like, being an actor, there are many things to recommend it, I'm sure, but there's sometimes a powerlessness because, you can get a P.T. Anderson movie as you did, and you were fantastic in it. What I saw,
I was all right.
You were good,
Yeah.
but as you're saying, you gave a lot to it, and a lot of it was taken away, and you don't have any say in that.
Yeah.
And now you're given this thing where this show hinges on you in your performance. I mean, many of the reviews of the pilot were like, where did this guy come from, and what would this show be without him?
Yeah.
So now you don't need to. This is your audition. This is your calling card.
People are always saying that, like newcomer Rami Malek. I'm like, oh man, I've been doing this.
Like,
you just haven't seen it.
You must not have played Halo 2, right?
No, Halo 2. Yeah, I think I got like $300 to do that, and they were like, sign your name away. You're never getting a residual for this. I was young, and I didn't even have an agent.
I can beat you on that. I did one character voice in Grand Theft Auto 2.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get paid for it.
You're kidding me.
No, I was a journalist. Still am, but like they were like, "Oh, come in and it'll be fun." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it would be fun to do something to you, $1 million company."
Right.
Yeah, there's not much money in doing the voices of people in video games, but
there is with the right backing behind you.
That's right.
There is a bar in Los Angeles called Residuals, where if you take a residual check in for under $1, they'll give you a free drink.
No.
Yes.
Why isn't there a sitcom set there?
Right.
That's amazing.
That's a good idea.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll do that off air. We'll plan that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't need to go there anymore.
No,
now you can buy your drinks.
I don't. It's I will say this. Yeah, a lot of stuff I've done has wound up on the cutting room floor. I did Old Boy with Spike Lee. I had some great scenes in that. gone. And we watched the movie together. I love Spike. We become great friends. But he doesn't even tell me that he's cut
That you
me
were
out.
gone?
Yeah, he's like, well, I made a 3-hour movie. It's often the words used. I made a long movie, and this is what. But it's fine, like, because now I'm at a place where you get over those things. I see it with Christian. He's gotten over a lot. I've gotten over some stuff. And you get to a place where something really good like Elliot comes your way, and you recognize the gift that it is.
See, that's the best perspective. And also, you worked with Paul Thomas Anderson. You worked with Spike Lee. You had the experience.
Yeah. I got to sit, spend multiple days with Joaquin Phoenix and the late Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Thomas Anderson, and just like pick brains, ask Phil for advice on how to conduct myself in a scene with Joaquin. Don't tell Paul I asked him that, but
because Joaquin was on one a little bit in that movie, right?
Yeah. But we grew close through that movie too. I got to see how his process works. So I get to bring all those, all of that into my experiences with this show, which is like doing 10 films, which I don't know how we do it, but in 7 days we're making what seems like a film.
And then doing it again.
And doing it again and
it's
again.
Pretty crazy. Rami, I should let you go because I know you have other things to do.
You have more questions?
Well, no. Here's the deal. Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Come back again.
Oh yeah.
We can talk about this again because I want to hear some of those stories from the set of The Master. I want to go deeper into that stuff.
Oh, there's some good ones there.
So we can workshop. You know how like when you go on talk shows and they do pre-interviewing?
Yes.
So we can pre-interview like the best anecdotes. So next time, now that we've got like the basics, now that we know each other, now that I know you really will shake my hand,
yes,
we'll be prepared.
You think you do.
Yeah, well, now I know the first layer.
Right.
And then we got to go deeper into Steel Mountain that is your heart and brain.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's it. It's called Steel Mountain.
That's what you call
Many
yourself.
women have referred to my core as Steel Mountain.
Your core?
Yeah. The dark soul
that's what they call
that
it?
resides within.
We're gonna do this again with Rami's Steel Mountain Malek.
Steel Mountain Malek. Great.
But seriously, thank you so much. The show, Mr. Robot. We're gonna let's promo this. Mr. Robot once again, best new show I think, summer 2015 USA. Not too late to catch up. Episode 6 will air next week, Wednesdays, 10 p.m. I'm sure you can watch it on demand. I'm sure the Elliot Alderson in your life can find it for you online in other ways.
Everyone's got a little Elliot in them.
Everyone knows an Elliot. The show's tremendous. Your performance is great.
Thanks.
Great talking to you. Thanks, Rami.
Thanks. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you soon. That's a promise.
Promise. Tell the camera.
That's a promise.
Yeah, there we go.